Dave,
John,
Shane,
Chad,
these sci-fi guys.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Guys. I am Dave, and with me is Shane,
Hey, everybody.
John, and Chad.
What up?
What up, guys?
Today, well, not today. We're not going to watch the movie today. We watched it.
Oh,
Sure you want to watch it again?
Man.
No.
Nope.
We watched Arrival this week. We have arrived
We arrived.
with Amy Allen and Jeremy. Oh, I never met Reamer.
Renner.
Forrest
Hawkeye.
Whitaker.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker.
And then Forrest Whitaker, of course, aka what was he in Rogue One? He was
Dude.
Saw?
Saul.
Saw
Saul Guerrero.
Guerrero.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I don't
Yeah.
remember from the unit.
yeah. From the unit?
Oh, is that a different guy? Some
Different guy. It wasn't in the unit. I remember my wife loved the show for a while. We watched it in different guy. So okay. Let's see here. We got to change things around because it was supposed to be Shane's movie, but then he did last week. So
hello,
there we go.
John.
It's John's movie this week.
John's
And
here.
yeah.
So, if you don't like this movie, blame John.
I can't blame John. John didn't choose it. He just said, I'll go with it.
Right.
I
I
mean-
actually chose it, but we had the movies mixed up. So.
Easter egg
Yeah,
for
but-
if you know, you know. Either way, it's blaming John, so it's okay.
Fair point. Fair point.
Fair point.
See what you did.
Oh boy, let's go ahead and go behind the scenes. All right. All right. So I've been doing this lately. The plot synopsis, very short. Okay. Linguist Louise Banks leads a team of investigators when gigantic spaceships touch down around the world. As nations teeter on the verge of global war, Banks and her crew must find a way to communicate with the extraterrestrial visitors. That is it. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, really.
Okay.
it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Let me click here. Boom, right here. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. All right. This movie was based on a short story. It was adapted from Ted Chiang's acclaimed novella, Story of Your Life, which was more introspective and philosophical than the action-driven. The screenwriter Eric Harriser was deeply passionate about adapting the story and pushed for years to get it made. His script was on spec. In other words, he wasn't commissioned to write it. He wrote the screenplay without studio attached. Simply, he just loved the material. So, all right, where am I at? Boom. Click. Usually I keep this thing on a separate screen, so that's why it's confusing me what I'm doing here. Anyway, boom, there we go. Okay, Dennis Villeneuve. I can't pronounce this guy's name. Villeneuve. Anyway, he signed on early. He is known for Prisoners and Cicero. He brought a cerebral, moody tone to the film. He was drawn to the emotional and philosophical depth of the story. He's the guy that's on the left. So on the picture here, on the right, that is cinematographer Bradford Young. He was chosen for his naturalistic style, emphasize subdued lighting and atmosphere over sci-fi spectacle. He is the first an African American cinematographer to be nominated for an Oscar in his work. Designing the aliens and the spaceships. All right, the hetapods were designed to look totally unfamiliar. Basically, they resembled a big hand. I mean, that's what I kind of noticed. It was like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
seemed like a big hand.
Yeah.
And smoky shapes. They wanted to avoid anything humanoid or traditional sci-fi. The alien language was fully designed by real graphic designers, not linguists,
Mm.
to appear plausible but unique. The circular logograms took inspiration from inky, smoky-like calligraphy and were carefully constructed to convey complexity. All right. You see this person on the screen. This is linguist Dr. Jessica Kuhn from McGill University. She was consulted on the film to help portray realistic language analysis. She advised on how linguists would tackle an unknown language and helped Amy Adams' performance feel grounded. All right. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. Okay. Philosophy and time. So the producer and writer, they all were adamant about preserving the story's non-linear timeline and circular storytelling, even though it risked confusing audiences. Studio pressure, they pressured them to make it more like Independence Day, and they said no. It was resisted. The use of flash forwards mistaken as flashbacks was a deliberate trick of the viewer meant to mirror Louise's transformation on how she perceived time. All right. Our two main actors, Amy Adams was Villeneuve's only choice for Louise. He said, if I can't have her, I don't want to do the movie. Period. So she was number one to get. Jeremy Renner played the supporting but crucial role, and his character was expanded a bit from the original story to offer more warmth and balance. For emotional renaissance, Amy said, or Adam said, that she treated Louise's version of her daughter as real memories, not futuristic visions, to stay grounded in emotion. All right. This movie was nominated for 8.
Yeah, that's a
8.
lot.
8 Academy Awards. It won Best Sound Editing. It was praised for its cerebral take on alien contact, as well as emotional depth and visual storytelling. It has since been regarded as one of the most thoughtful science fiction films of the 21st century, often compared to classics like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and Contact. So, now there was some controversy about the Academy Awards, and Shane, please take it away.
Yes, absolutely. So the film composer and the the film composer was an Icelandic composer named Johan Johansson. So it's Johan Johansson. Anyway, he did a remarkable job with really implementing a lot of futuristic sounds. He used a lot of synthetic sounds. He used a lot of excuse me, very just he really took a lot of a different kinds of textures. He wanted a lot of open vocals. He wanted also a lot of what you would see in nature and chop it up into more of a synthetic kind of version. But anyway, moving on past that. The controversy was that this was actually nominated for Best Original Score. However, because at the beginning and at the end it used a piece of music called "On the Nature of Daylight" by Max Richters. Max Richters. And what happened was, because it was so prominent in the beginning and at the end, it actually disqualified this movie from being a nomination for Best Original Score, even though 90% of the score was written by the composer. Because this was so prominent at the beginning, at the end, it disqualified it. So that's kind of the controversy as far as this goes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame, especially when you put all that work into it and then you get nominated and then it's really a technicality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. All right, let's go and look at Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 94 and a popcorn meter gave it an 82. So, and let's look at the budget. The budget was 47 million. John, did it make money?
I think it made money.
Chat.
Yes, it made money.
Shane.
Absolutely.
Yes, it did. It made 100 million domestic. This is actually one of the few ones that we've had recently where domestic made more than the actual, that it didn't overwhelm in the international market. In other words,
Right.
so many of the other ones we've done, the international market is just blown up so much higher than domestic.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're only talking $12 million difference. So it grossed 100 million domestic and then 112 million international for a total of $212 million. So
Pretty
I
good.
think that was all the ones. Was that all the ones I had? Yes, it was. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and go to our questions. All right, John, take it away.
Oh, it's so scary. I feel like it's been forever since I've actually done questions.
Mhm.
Anywho, with Arrival, I think we can at least somewhat agree that it is much slower paced, especially than a lot of more recent watches for us. So, in regards to that, do you think that worked for the film, or do you think it was a little too emphasized, that slow pacing?
When you ask the question, do you mean overall, as like the movie overall, or just because okay, never mind.
I
Let's just
mean,
go with-
overall.
I think overall it was fine, but there was so many parts where to me were not necessary. There was other parts that I thought they should have expanded on. And then there was other parts that I was just like, can we get to the next act? I mean, it was just a combination. It was in my taste, and I mean, I'm sure we're going to do it when we do our rating, but in my opinion, it was a little too slow for me. I was
Fair.
I was disappointed. I remember seeing the movie and I knew it was a slow burn. And I'm not a big fan of slow burns anymore. I used to be, I guess, and I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's get it on. Let's figure this out,
Yeah.
So someone else.
I agree with you, Dave. It was very slow burn. There's times where I like a slow burn movie. This time, I wish it was still a bit in the middle, where times where it needs to be slow, let it be slow, and times where it's just slow. When it's slow, it just wasted the space there. So I wish it was more in the middle, make it moderate slow, not too slow on it, because it could have dropped a couple minutes and still made a good movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shane?
I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I think the slow pacing actually worked. I think the slow pacing worked with the storytelling, because there was a lot to pack in there, and really when you started getting into where they were talking about time as being nonlinear and everything like that, and you're really kind of focused in on the memory. Really and truly, I thought the slow pacing worked very well. I thought that Amy Adams did a tremendous job with her role. There were some parts that I wish they would have expanded a little bit more, and we'll kind of get into that. But I think the overall pace was good. I think it allowed you time to really kind of zero in on what was going on and what they were trying to get out of it.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I definitely get the storytelling side of it. I will say my hand was forced in terms of watching this on the TV, because a lot of these I end up watching on my phone throughout my week, moving from place to place, waiting on doctors, that sort of thing. But I was at home watching Sick Kids Friday, and so I was like, I'll watch it on the TV. It's fine while they're napping. And I will say I missed in this movie the ability to 2x speed it. So I think the pacing matches the film's intent, but me personally, I definitely could have dealt with that this time. However, On the opposite side of that, with it is slower paced, but on the beginning, well, I mean, slow and then it picks up really quick and then we slow down again. But when they're going to get these scientists, what's with that trope of just scientists being swept away quickly? Like, do you guys think the government just keeps a list of scientific contenders that they're
No,
just ready to
no,
snatch away?
no. It's just a stupid thing that movies do. I'm sorry. The first people that would have been there, the military has their own linguist. The military has their own scientist. You know, they're going to use all those guys first. And then if they run into an issue, I mean, at least they gave the throwaway line of, "Hey, you helped us with that thing with the insurgents, you know, a year ago. So your top secret clearance is still good." You know, at least they didn't throw that other. That would have been a plot hole if they didn't do something like that. You know, but
Fair.
to me, they just and movies do it all the time. It's just, oh, we got to figure out how to make the civilian get in there and not be all military. You know, military is going to use military first. You know, especially
Mhm.
for something that they don't know. You know, Saw Gerrera's. I'm just going to call him Saw Gerrera. You know, Forrest. I think one of the best lines was he's like, you know, hey, the news is out there. It's only been 24 hours, and they expect us to know everything about it. You know, and they would not call in civilians until boom, their military people would be like fresh out of I have no idea.
I say
And then
until
of
we
course
see the
then
wall,
yeah, and then they do the whole, you know, oh hey, okay, it'll take me 20 minutes. Okay, you got 10. You know, I mean that's just movies do that all the time. They just they're trying to get it where okay, well this guy's in charge and he wants to
Mhm.
flex his in chargeness, if that's a word. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
yeah, to me, I just think that that's something that movies do. It's not realistic at all.
Yeah. I agree. I think that it would most certainly be kind of a military operation in all aspects. I think they would have necessarily tried to filter it that way first. Now I do think that if there were issues and they had people like you said, Dave, they had people that they have worked with before that they could bring in later, but I think they would have automatically went to people with within the military structure because kind of like you said, a military operation needs to be run by military people
Mhm.
first. Then if you need to bring in outside sources, you kind of do it that way. But I think that it for the movie it works, but 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 in real life, I don't think so.
Yep. Chad?
I agree with Dave said. You wouldn't get civilian scientists in there just yet without them trying the military scientists and linguists. Because why should they open it up to the public and open risk of it getting out or getting leaked? Just like you saw at the end of this movie where she grabbed the sat phone from the CIA agent there. Hey, where's my phone at? Uh-oh. Civilian has it calling.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would never happen.
Mm-mm.
Very, very true. Yeah, I definitely think Hollywood takes full advantage of that trope. Um, I mean, it is kind of entertaining to watch, but it's definitely not realistic.
Mhm.
There are very few situations that move on that timeline, and Dave, I definitely think you're. I mean, obviously you have experience with it as well, but you're spot on the like. No, the military has their people first, and they would definitely spend a lot of time on that themselves before it's open to anybody else. Um, and so I think that idea that we're just kidnapping scientists basically is just it's a bit overdone in my opinion, honestly, but I know it's going to keep happening because we keep watching and it is kind of entertaining. So
I mean,
uh,
if it would have been more than 24 hours, I could have seen it.
Mhm.
yes,
But because it was only 24 hours, and then now they're giving up with their military linguist. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they have guys out there that are linguists. Literally, they're flying around on airplanes, listening in, doing whatever, you know, interpreting messages that they're reading, that they're seeing, that they're hearing, you know, and I guarantee you there'd be other ones that are going to be able to. They would have done a lot of the preliminary stuff that she did. So
Yep. Which, I mean, speaking to just any idea of realism, how do you guys think they did in terms of that communication while we're kind of hashing it out there? Like, would that be a realistic way we'd have to figure out communication with aliens? Was it not? And I mean, I know in behind the scenes, you're talking about how they bring in a linguist. What do you guys think? Was it pretty
I
spot
thought it was
on?
I thought it was very interesting. I liked how it kind of delved into the process of how how language works. I love one of my favorite scenes is when she wrote the question on the board because they wanted to know like what is your purpose here? Well, she's like, okay, if we're going to find that out, we first have to know this, and then we have to know what this means, and we have to define what you means, and blah 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 blah. So breaking that down, I thought was really cool. It was really interesting. I thought that their process of collecting their different symbols and things like that um, that I enjoyed as far as from a Hollywood standpoint. I don't know how realistic that would be because it really just seemed like more mimicking. Like they would say something, then the aliens would put a symbol out that was basically the same thing that they said. Well, how does that necessarily work? How do you break that down? They maybe could have went into that a little bit more. Probably didn't need to, but at the same point, I think that it was good for the movie. I don't know how realistic it was, but it was very interesting. It really made you think.
now I think it's I'm kind of the I guess I'll play the opposite of you, Shane, for a bit. Is I really think that is the basic of communication. I do think you've got to get down to the basic things. I mean, look what they did in here. Where they were used the word weapon, and it was misunderstood. The word they used for weapon wasn't really a weapon. It was for something different, but we didn't understand what they were saying. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't get down to the nitty gritty where you're like, okay, this is a cup, and if you and I know that this is a cup, and they don't say it as a cup, they said it as, okay, this is a pistol or whatever, or a weapon or whatever, and then we get the two confused. I do think that they need to get down to basics. Basic 101 is, okay, what is this? What is that? What is just, I think the way they did it in the movie that's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing was how they explained, well, you got to know this, to know this, to know this, then to get
Yes,
back.
I agree.
Circles back around. I thought that was really, really well done.
I agree. I also think, Dave, just to piggyback on what you were talking about, when they were actually taking the symbols, and you noticed whenever she was drawing them out, and she was actually labeling all of the little points that came out in the circles and how they were different and everything. That I thought was extremely cool and extremely interesting, and it just shows you the detail of it and how much actually goes into figuring that out. So yeah, I agree. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. There's not much I can add to that. I agree with both of y'all on that.
And overall, I think it gives us importance to context behind words as well, especially talking about that like weapon v tool idea. And it's real funny because I think we all apply that a lot biblically as well, and just how quickly context can change certain things. And I heard other podcasts this week mention how like it's also like the difference. You have the same two words in butt dial and booty call, but context changes those two things completely. And I think it's the same thing with the weapon and the tool. And so watching them dive through that idea of language as a whole, I think it's super important to how we talk overall and just the social cues behind that and the intent and the meaning and the context. I think it's huge. And so I think it's real interesting how the film approached that and really made you think through how those things happen in real life, even if you're learning real languages, or in their case, figuring out an alien language, which is crazy to think about even potentially doing ever. Kind of swapping gears a little bit, I guess. Why do you think they left so much up in the air with this film? I feel like it left a lot unanswered, and part of that's its storytelling. But do you guys think it left too much unanswered? Did it answer enough? What do you guys think?
And I don't think that I think the left's a little bit up there where they could have explained just a little bit more, and they did explain, they could have just left it alone. Because what the point of like I'm trying to think all the scenes where they're trying to figure out, and you see John the guy with
Ian.
Ian. Well, Ian's running. I'm like a couple like could have cut that a half second and just to made it nice line. I figured that we knew where they were going. I tried to figure out this is run. This is trying to get the basic language down, and then figure out how do they come up with a computer program with knowing what hey this, and they start trying to use their language with them. So
Yeah, I thought that. I don't know. I thought that there was a lot unanswered. I mean, they got the basic down of okay, we need to communicate back and forth. Here's how we're doing it. But I really thought that there was a lot left out there. There was, I mean, the whole Ian's like Chad was saying, Ian's whole aspect of it. What in the world? I mean, they were physicists, so he really wasn't needed there. So why didn't they just kind of have some more stuff about what he was doing to figure out what she was doing and have the two combine and work together? You really didn't see that. You just saw her basically taking the lead and him going, yeah, okay, that works, and I just thought that there was a lot of that left out that it just did. I was very confused on most of this movie. I'll be honest. It just the flow and all that just didn't quite make real good sense to me. And I thought there was a lot left out. What about you, John?
I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I think part of it, again, is to motivate us as the audience to try to tie stuff together ourselves and in of itself kind of draw us into the movie. But I think you're correct in that it leaves so much unanswered at times that although it is nice to make an audience think, there are times when you have to lead and guide and kind of hold the hand of the audience just to make sure they arrive at the points you want them to. And I think that's one of the things that this particular film it tried to do in especially the later parts of the film, but it was a little like, to me, it was a too little too late, and so I think leaving a lot of that unanswered was just a little too much in this instance. Shane, what do you think about that? I know you yeah.
Would you mind saying the question one more time? I'm sorry, I had to step out.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna be like. I know what you're dealing with. Does it leave too much? Does the film leave too much unanswered, basically, or do you think it answered enough to help us along?
So I have figured this out about myself. I like movies that leave me room to really think and ponder and really kind of think through the storyline. So to me, I don't think it left it too open ended. I think it gave you a lot of things to really think about whenever it came to um, time and the future and everything. And we've talked about this in several movies where it's like, if you knew what was coming, would you change it? And I think that this is also very prevalent in this movie too. It really kind of it guides you to those steps, but it kind of also leaves it open for your own interpretation, your own thoughts, and I like that personally. Um, could it have closed some gaps? Yeah, it could have, but but personally, I liked it. I thought it really made me think, especially towards the end.
Fair enough. Speaking of kind of the end goals of the film, what do you think the heptapods or the heptapods? What do you think they will end up needing help with? Because it definitely didn't necessarily answer that. Because they're like, here's this tool for you to use. We're going to need your help thousands of years down the road. So here we are. Help. So what do you think they will need help with?
DNA. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that maybe, again, the movie doesn't say, but maybe the humans will evolve into those
Mm.
hepapods or whatever, something along that line over thousands and thousands of years. Uh, Obviously, I don't believe that, but it's just maybe that's just what they want you to think, or I don't, I can't think of anything. I mean, with the technology that they had and the way they were thinking, and the human beings, we're so fragile, we're this, we're that, we don't even breathe the same oxygen. I mean, we breathe oxygen. They obviously didn't, because that's why they were in that smoky area,
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
don't really know. I don't. Shane, Chad, do either of you guys have any thoughts? I mean, I'm at a
You,
loss.
yeah, you really didn't know what. Only thing I can think about is you saw what they said was flashback, was the flash forwards, the future you were seeing, where her daughter dies of a cancer or some kind of disease ongoing. So who knows? It could be just because they did say, "Hey, y'all did help us out 3,000 years from now. We're coming back here to pay a debt or something." They almost give you the tool give you the weapon that they use, and the weapon was their language, to start studying it. That's the only thing I guess is training their linguists, their language, so that way they can start studying and probably figuring out how to use it.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Dave, I'm like you. I really don't have a clue. The only hints that I kind of got was the fact of when they talked about that time works different for them and time is nonlinear. And I don't know if this like leaves the door open for potential, because you can kind of see into the future, if there is potential for time travel in the future, or going light speed further, going through, I don't know. It seems like it could lead to that, but there's no like definite clue to it. It's just time works different for them. And that could go a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
In which I truly don't think I have an answer to it either, without also talking about some of our later portions, because
Hmm.
that's where I start to find some more faults with this film. So I think I just land with I don't really know either, guys.
Yeah. I think this is a good point to uh let me throw this drop in here.
If you could see your whole life from start to finish, would you change things?
I know we've asked that question a lot in some of the other movies when we've talked about time travel or whatever, and we're not going to answer that question now. But it's just something to think about.
Mhm.
Something to think about. All right, let's go ahead and look at plot holes. All right, someone besides me. Give
Time
me a
travel, time travel, time travel,
Time
time
travel,
travel,
time
time travel.
travel, time
This
travel.
I understand a lot of what it's based off of, but in this film, the whole concept that it builds on time travel just does not make sense, because the future can influence the past, but it almost seems like that the past struggles to influence the future, and that doesn't make sense, because although both the heptapods and supposedly now her, in learning their language, see time as non-linear, the issue with that is time still moves in a linear fashion. So just because you see it from a different standpoint doesn't mean it doesn't still move a certain way. And so I struggle, the whole idea of you can affect one without affecting the other. I As much as time moves and were time travel possible, I don't see that being a possibility at all, because no matter what, time is linear, even if you can like, see it a little differently. And I think control of time, that's different, but just seeing it, you're not affecting it the way that I think the film proposed. And I think that threw off a lot of things towards the end, including the heptapods. If they can also see those things with their language, then why aren't they doing something to fix it? Why do they need one human to learn this whole idea? And I think the moment you hit that, I think it throws a lot of the rest just kind of for a loop. And I don't think they hit that strongly enough. And I think that's where, like, when you leave a whole lot unanswered, I think that's where that particular unanswered question doesn't help the film. And I think it throws things into disarray. So that's my major plot hole.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another thing is towards the end when the bomb went off, how in the world did they not know the C4 is missing?
True.
I mean, why would you have C4 that much of it missing from Armory, and then, hey, where's so and so at? And then, and then that standing alone. I mean, I agree with John said. I mean, go back to the Future. If you alter the future stuff, you come back to alter something that to better yourself. Something's got to another time. You alter the time, it's going to change something.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder, and Dave, this is something with your military background that you can speak on. I wonder if the military's response would not have been more more of a hostile reaction quicker.
Yeah.
I know that whenever they came in, nothing really happened. They were just there. But at the same point, I wonder if the military would have, kind of like China did, where they mounted
somebody
an
would have
offensive
somebody
quickly.
fired at something.
See, that's
way
the thing that
before
I
this.
thought. Somebody would have done that much quicker, which probably then would have set off a chain reaction of things. But at the same point, I wonder I don't know that, and again, I have no basis to speak on this. It's just a thought, and that's why I want Dave to chime in. But I wonder if the initial response would have been more hostile than them trying to explore what's going on.
Yeah. I got a couple. Okay. For example, during the visit on the ship, the alien's message is translated offer weapon, and then everyone is upset about it. Why didn't Louise and Ian basically stay there and clarify what that meant? They heard it and then they ran back and said, "Hey, this is what they said. Weapon." And then everyone freaked out about it. Instead of, the whole point was, we need to make sure we're understanding the right thing. We're understanding everything. That was a big one. One of the most egregious ones was her house. I'm sorry, you're on a teacher salary. You are not going to afford a beautiful house right on the water.
Fair.
No.
Ain't gonna happen.
I thought she was professor.
Not in this economy either.
Even a
Let alone this.
professor, not gonna happen. And then, of course, Amy Allens knew her child would die a horrible disease, but still went ahead and did it and didn't bother to warn Renner before deciding to have a baby together.
Yeah.
And then also, wouldn't Ian also have learned the alien language? Why wasn't he able to see in the future also?
True.
Those are things to me that I got lost in. Okay, how can she can see it but he can't? Yet he's over here understanding, he's reading all this stuff the same as she is, but yet she has this superpower and Hawkeye
They
doesn't.
bonded.
I mean, it goes back to the question: if you saw your entire life and you knew exactly everything would happen. What would you change? Would you change anything? I think if I had a child that was going to die a horrible death, I may not want to put my child through that. I really don't know. I think there is a difference. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. All right, let's go ahead and rate this thing. Okay, we're going to rate this on a scale of 0 to 5 lightsabers. John, we'll go ahead and let you go first. 1, because you already put it in the spreadsheet. 2, since you asked the questions.
Honestly, this was a good watch. And I think the major fault I'm going to have with it is ultimately what lands me on the rating I do have. I do think it encapsulates science as a whole very well. Just as someone who, even at an elementary level, teaches science, the basics of science is asking questions and finding answers. When you get down to the very basics of it, that's what science is about. And I think this film sticks very heavily to that science in a fictional way, and I think that makes it encapsulate science fiction very well. However, a lot of plot holes, a lot of true slow pacing that I genuinely got bored with. Even as good as the film was, even as it led you through stuff and was building, I saw the pieces it was building together, and I'm like, let's just jump somewhere, please. And so for me, that lands it at a solid 4 because it's a solid film. Probably would watch again, but it does leave a lot of questions that I think just leave a lot far too open to give it any higher. I just don't want to give it any lower because some solid cinematography as a whole, a solid film in my opinion. Just a little too many things wrong with it to go higher, and not enough to go lower for me. So 4.
Okay, Chad, how about you?
Oh, I'm teetering between a 4 and a 3.5 on this, only because it was a little bit slow for me. I mean, they could have cut some slow parts out or sped some parts up just to make it a great film, and took some parts out. You didn't need all those. Like the beginning of this movie. Why show her losing her child and the next day she's teaching in class? They didn't explain that was the future. I assumed, like me watching the first time, assumed it was, hey, it's why she at work the next day. Just kind of thinking. So just with that, cinematography was great. The question is to me, will I rewatch it again? Yes, just because of who's in it, and it was a great movie, great science explained. I got to go 3.5. I can't give it a 4 just because of the very fact that there's parts in it that they should explain more and took stuff out.
Okay, then. All right, Shane, how about you?
So, as I explained earlier, I think that these kinds of movies are some of my favorites. Ones that really kind of make you think and really kind of leave things out there for your interpretation. I really enjoyed the storyline. This is actually my second time watching the movie, and I enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first. I think that Amy Adams did a phenomenal job as far as acting. I thought she did a great job. Really hooked you into the character. Um, I thought the music was great. I thought the music was very forward thinking. Um, One of the things that I meant to mention earlier, and I couldn't get it out, was that he really used a lot of vocal based music in this. Meaning, what he did was he took vocals, especially in the Icelandic language, and he actually would take them and chop them up, and he would actually make different electronic textures and manipulations to it, and that's how he got a lot of the sounds for it. So I think it is a tragedy that this one was not able to be nominated for best original score. I think it's a tragedy. Um, but in saying all of that, I think it was a really good movie. Did it have some plot holes? Absolutely. Could it have been a little faster in places? Absolutely. But I would have to give this a 4. I really enjoyed it.
Wow, you guys are all generous. I I guess maybe because I'm older. I don't know.
Well, there's that.
I rated it a 2.5. I was bored. I love the actors. Way too many questions. At first I was like Chad. At first I thought maybe this was her past that she was looking back at, that she was taking care of this child, but then the child changed every time. And one time she had blonde hair, then the next time she was a brunette. And Amy Adams is a redhead. So
Hmm.
again, it just things that just didn't make sense to me. John, you asked the question. What did they need humans for? The answer was never given. So, things like that. To me, it was fine. All right. It reminds me of Contact.
Mhm.
When I said in the behind the scenes, I rated Contact a 2.5. So, I can't go any higher. I don't really want to go any lower. So that's kind of where I went. So let's go ahead and either fix or improve this. Hey, you know what? Since I'm talking, I'll go ahead and keep talking. So here's my fix. And I'm not going to say don't do the movie because it was fine. Again, it was a bad movie because people say it's a great movie, it's wonderful. The things that give me some answers on why you need us in the future. And this needs to be if you're going to say a language is going to allow you to do this time travel, future seeing thing and whatever, she needs to be not the only one, you know. And then the decisions should have been made. Don't make Ian a douche, which is what you did, because when his daughter had this sickness and then he goes away, that's totally against everything that the movie kind of made him out to be.
This is
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. I couldn't see his character doing that.
No.
So if you're going to say, okay, uh, they should have been together, you just didn't see him in the flashbacks. You know what I'm saying? Instead of daddy being away, you know, daddy could have been at work or daddy could have been somewhere else or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Don't make him such there's a difference between if you want to tough love, you have to tough love children sometimes.
Mhm.
And then you have a child that is ill. Okay. If you have a child that's ill, you're not going to run away.
Mm-mm.
Or who you are. If you're a parent, you're not going to run away. So fix that definitely. Again, make Ian and Amy Adams make both of them military. They don't have to be civilians. They don't have to be teaching in a school and all that. Because I've seen Amy Adams in a flight suit. All right, she could pull it off. She can go ahead and look in military. And Hawkeye in Thor, he was in the military.
Fair.
So
True.
you know what I'm saying? Make them in the military. Let them stay in uniform. Let them be officers, whatever. And then that way they can work together. Those are just the things. So a few of the things I would fix.
Yeah.
Someone else.
Chad, you go.
All right. So I agree with Dave right there with don't make these scientists civilians. Make them military because military is not going to grab civilian scientists right at 24 hours of the thing's landing. So make that change. In the beginning, I understand you want to see the progression of the daughter, but you started going backwards, and you saw first scene you saw is the daughter dying in the hospital, and that scene you saw was her teaching or doing something at work. That wasn't that. I don't see that pulling strings to make you heartfelt to the storyline. Change that. Change if you want to do something. Change to the news cycle of these these ships landing where they are. Show them landing. Show them the news cycle. what we saw was like we were following in the news. Other than that, speed some parts up. Like like when they all outside of the ship, speed it up. Like, hey, show it them show them the physicists and the linguists working together. Not, oh, I'm just all you saw was Amy Adams' part doing it, and that would have been great if that's all it was focused on. It was, oh, I brought the physicists and some more science person to help to get that side. We never saw that side. Let's see that side. Other than that, just let it go. Like, let's answer the questions. Why do they need us? Why do they need us 3,000 years? Why? Or why even put that line in there? Take that line out. That way, that question goes away.
Mhm. I would have liked to have seen both, um, Amy Adams' character and Jeremy Ritter's character experience the aliens together instead of it just being Amy Adams' character. I think that would have tied more in, and kind of like Dave said, I think it would have made the ending stronger whenever they're talking um about the child and everything like that, because they would have had it together. And also just a question about helping the aliens in the future. You have two people now, so you have more there. I also would have slowed down the ending just a little bit. I thought we built up to all this stuff and then suddenly the aliens leave. And it's like I would have clarified that a little bit more. Maybe I know that they were talking about helping in the future and everything, but it just kind of happened out of nowhere and then the movie's over. So I would have given more there. My final one is this film score should have been best original score. If you're gonna fix the movie, you have to make this film score the best original score. I'm just saying it is innovative. It needs
Well,
to
then let him just tweak the beginning and the end, so that way there's no controversy.
yes, 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 and yes.
Fair, fair. Uh, for me, I think obviously fix the time stuff. I think that's a real big one. Overall, I think you guys are absolutely right in terms of you cut a lot out. I think a lot of that linguistic learning could have been at least spliced or sped up or something. And I definitely think change a lot of the, when we say fix the time as well, the flashbacks, fix the order that they kind of show up in, and kind of let us put that puzzle together rather than just showing us the ultimate end of the daughter. And I understand it's like the beginning is the end and the end is not, get rid of that. Just like actually make it puzzle worthy, or, let's piece the puzzle together as we go. And then the audience can put it together at the end. Which I know it thinks it does. I think it failed at. And my last fix would be post-credit scene, 3,000 years or however long it was in the future. The ships are back. Humanity's actually ready and waiting. And then, black screen. I would
That'd
have
been
loved to have
cool.
seen that.
I like that idea.
Prep it for a
be
sequel. I don't know, anything.
That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
To Enterprise.
Please contact us. Tell us if you agree with our ratings, or how you would fix or improve this movie, or if there's a movie that you would like us to review. The easiest way to do that is, if you're watching us on YouTube, is to comment below. For those of you that are audio-only listeners, you can reach us on either X or Facebook at TheseSciFiGuys. Or you could email us, TheseSciFiGuys@gmail.com.
Well, I'm the one that has to choose our next movie. Originally, let me go ahead and pull this up. I originally was going to do Inner Space. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure you guys would get the 80s humor.
Hold on now, Dave.
Hold on. After such a deep movie as the one we just watched, Arrival, I thought we needed something, I don't know, something a little bit more, I don't know, iconic, something.
I am Iron Man.
That's right. We're going to do the original Iron Man. We
Yeah.
have not done a superhero movie at all in 3 years since we started this. So we're going to go ahead and do, especially because I know Shane and I, we were at the movies the other night and we saw Thunderbolts. So it kind of made me also think, you know what? We need to do a Marvel movie. We haven't done one yet.
And if anybody's sci-fi, it's Tony Stark.
Yes.
It is. Tony Stark is definitely, and that movie is definitely science fiction. So for sure. So anyway, hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I know it's been a couple years since I've watched it. So I don't know about y'all. Anyway, remember, no matter where you go, there you are. Until next time.
Crash and burn.
The Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by the Sci-Fi Guy Productions. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow us on Twitter or X at the Sci-Fi Guys. For our audio-only listeners, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment to let us know how we're doing.